All right. Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good.
Good. Excellent. Well, I'm Ben. I am a salon owner here in Chicago. We've got a couple of locations. I'm also a graduate from Paul Mitchell, Chicago. So I was the first student that signed up to go to school here, which was pretty awesome. So I always have a blast when I come back and share with everybody. A couple of people that I brought with me is one of our stylists at our West Loop location, Bree. She's also a graduate from here. And Krista, who is a graduate from here as well. So she's going to shadow and hang out. Hi, Tara. How are you?
Good. Hi.
I'm good. But yeah, I'm excited to get to share with you guys. I remember what it was like when I sat in these chairs and it was like, who's this guy? We're going to zone out for a little bit. But I feel like I've got some good stuff to share with you. So I just want to make today entertaining, fun, you get to hang out. We're not going to do any haircuts or demos or anything like that. We're just really going to talk about salon life and what it's like after you graduate and how to be successful. So with what we do, our salon is called The Hair Loft. It's a family business. My parents got us started in 1980. Give you a peek at that. Yeah, it was kind of wild. There's wallpaper on everything. It was palm trees in downtown Chicago, so going for a little California vibe, I guess. But kind of crazy. Like the wallpaper is even on the chair backs. It's on the stations. It was a little intense. About 10 years ago, we moved to River North, and we redid our style a little bit. So we wanted it to be modern, but still warm and welcoming. We are on Huron between Wells and Franklin. This location has 14 stations. We've got about 2,700 square feet. We also offer massage as well as a nail department. So we've been really proud of the design. 10 years later, we're starting to do some style updates and just kind of change things around a little bit. But it has been a phenomenal place for us. We've grown every single year that we've been in business after that move. So we've been really happy about that. And then about 2 years ago, we were in an opportunity where we were able to open a second location over in the West Loop. So definitely, you know, the hottest growing neighborhood. So this space is kind of like our Disney World, where we've got 4,000 square feet. Just a massive space. So we've got plenty of room to grow. That's sort of a look when you come in the front door, a look from the back. And then something else that I'm really passionate about is education. How many of you are interested in becoming an educator at some point in your career? A couple of you? Cool. So having grown up in the salon industry, I had a lot of exposure to things within the industry before I went to school. I started working in the salon when I was 14, right? So I kind of had seen a lot before going to school at 21. So I knew that I wanted to get into education. And after school, I applied to be an educator, and Paul Mitchell said no. And I was like, well, that sucks, right? Like, I'm an only child. I'm not used to people telling me no, like, you can't do that. So I started to become a guest artist. And I went out and I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. And so I started calling schools. And in 5 years, I was able to go to 100 school visits with Paul Mitchell schools across the country. Nobody ever asked me if I knew what I was teaching. They just were excited that I was passionate about it and that I showed up. We were able to evolve that into having people that we wanted to work with come in and teach classes. We were able to offer our own programs, and part of our West Loop location actually has an academy in the back so that we can host our own workshops and grow from there. So this year has been super exciting for us. We are on pace to have our best year that we've ever had, and we're on pace to break $2 million this year. So pretty fantastic. Now, all that stuff is just to kind of share with you who I am. Some of it you may be interested in, some of it you may not be interested in, but my whole goal here today is just to share what works for us. It may not be your style, but this is a little video clip from a great movie, Dead Poets Society. Anybody familiar with it? Yeah, it's awesome. But I like to start all of my classes with this clip.
Now, my class, you will learn to think for yourselves again. You will learn to savor words and language. No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world. Now, see that look in Mr. Pitt's eye? Like 19th century literature has nothing to do with going to business school or medical school, right? Maybe. Mr. Hopkins, you may agree with him, thinking, yes, We should simply study our Mr. Pritchard and learn our rhyme and meter and go quietly about the business of achieving other ambitions. A little secret for you. Huddle up. Huddle up! We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. Medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. To quote from Whitman, "O me, O life of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, what good amid these, O me, O life?" Answer, that you are here, that life exists and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be?
The point is that what I have is our way of working. It's not everybody's way of working. There's no one way to become successful in any industry, or specifically this industry. So you guys are going to find your way to get there. But I just love that. How many of you knew that you wanted to go to beauty school like your whole life? Like you just grew up like, I want to be a hairstylist someday? One. Okay, that's interesting. How many of you tried something else before going to beauty school then? All right, so you went to college? Yeah, I went to college too, because even though I grew up in the salon, I never really expected the salon to be my thing. Like as a kid, I'd go down there and it was like, if any of you went to work with your parents, like it was not really like where you wanted to go. It's just kind of where you got dragged to go. And so while I went to college for a year, went for management and marketing, hated my gen eds because it was just another year of the stuff that I had already done 4 years of, right? And I was so excited when I went to school thinking I was going to get to study the stuff that I wanted to then be hit with like, nah, you get more of the boring stuff, right? So I just kept working in the salon full time, and I came around to why I liked the salon. And so one of the things that is probably the biggest and most important question I ask on our job interviews is why. Why did you want to become a hairstylist? At some point, you made the decision, I'm going to go to school. And my question is, what was the purpose in that decision, right? There's really 3 ways that we can talk about what we do. We can talk about what we do, how we do it, and why it works, or why it exists. And most people, they communicate with what? I'm a hairstylist. Come get your hair done. What do you use to do it? Oh, well, how I work is I use Paul Mitchell hair color. Come get your hair done. Okay. How much does it cost? Where are you located? Right? There's a lot of stuff that we're still not connected with. But if we share with people why we're in business, why we're passionate, why we're doing this, then people become engaged and they're connected to us, not because of what we do, but because why we do it. And so for me, the reason that I love being in the salon is to enhance people's lives. By building people's confidence, they're able to have better, more successful lifestyles. Do you agree with that statement? Right? The way that we interact, the way that we engage with our guests, we do so much more than just hair. It's the interaction that we give them that creates this confidence that then they're able to go out and do whatever it is that they want to do. A lot of times we see guests before really, really important parts of life. Job interviews, first dates, weddings, even funerals. And so if we can work with them and give them confidence to go into those aspects of life and those events, those things are going to turn out better. Now, I'm not going to guarantee that you're going to get the job interview because I gave you an awesome haircut, but I can guarantee you that the job interview will go better if you're more confident, right? When it comes to form and function, I can still have the same purpose. When we are more educated on what we're doing as professionals and future professionals, we're more confident then that the work is going to come out great, right? If you started work with a guest and you're like, oh, I haven't had enough men's haircutting classes, I'm not sure. When you're doing that haircut, you're like, oh my God, please work, right? Or you do a color and you haven't really had that color class yet. You're going in the back room and you're like, please lift, please tone. But if you're confident and you have the education, you're cool. You're like, I know that this color is going to be rad. I'm going to put it on my Insta story instantly because I know that the end result is going to be cool and I'm not going to look bad in my Instagram story. Agreed? So it's all about building people's confidence. I think we're really fortunate that we live in one of the coolest cities, in the country, in the world. Chicago is such a huge inspiration to me. I've never been the person that could look at something and be like, oh, you see that building? That's a haircut. Like, it never translates like that to me. But the history and just the feeling of Chicago is what inspires me. So one of the things that I take from this is those skyscrapers, right? They're hard to ignore, beautifully designed. When we look at those, I see those almost as like our mentors. Who's somebody that you look up to in this industry? You say Jesus? He probably cut good hair, I don't know. Who? Just anybody?
Guy Tang.
Guy Tang? All right. So why do you like Guy?
I like his technique. I like how he goes through his videos and it's really thorough. He places himself over and over in every step he does.
Yeah, he's phenomenal work, right? And hugely successful, right? Top of the industry right now. So let's think of him as like that tall building right there, right? He's at the top of the Hancock Center. And so we look up to that and we go, man, I want to be that. But what we don't realize is that the top of that building is built story by story. The way that Guy got there was not just by, boom, I'm at top of the industry. It was one video at a time. It was one guest at a time, one technique at a time. And each story got built on top of the one before it. And so it becomes really easy, especially with social media now, for us to look at people and go, man, I want to be that, right? I want to be that successful. But what we're not seeing is that it's the late nights, it's the one guest that referred another guest, it was they did an event and got 3 clients to come in from that event, and each success builds on the one before it. And so that's what I see when I look around the city. I also find that, like the Chicago fire, right? Another example. Chicago fire, devastating, right? Leveled everything. In the moment, super sucked. Everything was gone, like the entire downtown Chicago, burned to the ground. But in hindsight, it was actually one of the best situations that happened to the city. Because at the time, the city was kind of growing randomly. There was no plan, it was just doing what it was doing. But when it burned down, St. Louis was actually a bigger city at the time, but all of the architects and all the carpenters and everybody knew that there was opportunity in Chicago, so they all moved up here. Then the city was also able to plan for success. We were able to come up with a grid pattern and say this is how things are going to be developed. And so I love that as well, because there are going to be times where you feel like, ah, shit, everything just collapsed. Everything just got wrecked. I got set back down to 0. It's only a 0 if you're not planning how you're going to rebuild from it. And so every single time something negative happens, I always think, you know what, whatever. It's part of the fire, right? We can build out of this. One of my favorite buildings in Chicago is Aqua. Aqua is an 84-story building over in Lakeshore East. It's the tallest building designed by a female lead architect, Jean Gang. It's about to be eclipsed by a different building, also designed by Jean Gang, which is going to be like 92 stories in the same neighborhood. But it's gorgeous. One of the things, though, is as cool as that building is, that building cannot stand without a foundation, right? As tall as it is, that's how deep it needs to be. It has to have a strong base, correct? In order for it to stand. A business is the same. And for us at Hairloft, the foundation for that is culture. We have to be around like-minded, excited individuals so that we can grow. So I called it successful lifestyle, because I think the things that I have to share with you, while they can make you successful in the salon, also greatly apply to you with your family, with your friends, with your personal relationships as well. Because it's really, really hard to be 2 different people, isn't it? Like, you can't be one person at work and then one person at home and like completely switch off as soon as you walk in the door or walk out of the door, right? So, first aspect of successful lifestyle is attitude. Now, there's a lot of different ways that we could talk about attitude. I know you've all read your Be Nice or Else books, correct? At least maybe the back cover, a little bit. So, we could talk about be kind. We could talk about, you have the ability to determine if you're going to have a good day or a bad day whenever you wake up. All those sort of things. My biggest thing, going back to confidence, is believe in you. How many of you had somebody tell you not to go to beauty school? All right, so like 40%, half the room somewhere. Why did they tell you that? Won't make money. What else?
Waste of time.
Waste of time. I like that they were like so concerned about time, like you can't do what you want with your time. What else?
It's how they didn't have like a good start in school.
They didn't have a good start, so they're telling you that you won't. Did they try to go to beauty school?
He did.
Yeah. What else?
Nursing is different than like someone.
Nursing would be more of a career.
Yeah.
Would you start to say?
I asked people to tell me I could just do it without going to school.
Oh, that you don't need like the license or anything? So the truth is that perception is people's reality. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Right? Like what people see, that's their world. And so when it comes to the salon world, if people live in their neighborhood, or maybe they're in a small town, and they're looking out and they're seeing, you want to go to school and you want to spend, how much does it cost to go to school here now? 20. That's about what it was. 23 something. You want to spend $23,000 so that then you can go work and do $20 haircuts? You're going to have to do like 10,000 haircuts before you even start to do that? Are they wrong in that assessment? No. But in my perspective, I have 2 people on my team that, Kayla, graduate from here, she has only been with us 3 years. Lily, who is our style education director, she's been with us 5 or 6 years, I think. Both of them are on pace to do $160,000 in services this year. So now who's right? Could be a good career, right? So it all depends on what angle that you're coming at it from. But when I think of people that are trying to say like, oh, don't do that, don't go for it, I don't think that it's that they're just trying to be haters and trying to keep you down. I think that they're actually in their mind, they're trying to help, right? They're trying to say like, look around, like the salon's charging nothing. That's what you want to do? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But the point is that you can do it if you decide that that's what you want to do. And if you believe that you're going to be able to get there. In Kayla's example, right? She's only in her 3rd year. Bree, how old is Kayla?
Kayla is 24.
23, so 23, 24, right? She's living downtown Chicago, hustling, working, she goes on vacations. She's really the example of like what I think everybody probably here would like to be doing. At 23, making somewhere around $80,000, that's pretty awesome, right? And so I like analogies. If we think of how a plane takes off, right? A plane takes off by going into the wind. It doesn't go with the wind, it drives into the wind. And that's kind of where you guys are right now. Like you had people that were in the air traffic control, they're saying, don't take off, don't use that runway, choose a different path. And you guys were like, no, I want to go to beauty school. I'm going to do this. Like, that's what I want to do. So like you're going into the resistance now. And that's cool, right? Like you're going for it. When that plane is going in to that airflow, the air goes over the top of the wing and it goes over the bottom of the wing. This creates 2 opposing forces, lift and drag. In order for the plane to take off, it has to create more lift than it does drag. You didn't know that this was going to be a physics class, did you? Right? So I think people are the same way. Okay? So you're going into the resistance. You've got people telling you like, you can't, like you shouldn't do that. That means that you need to create more lift in order to take off. That means hanging out with, there's probably a visionary poster around here, right? Those visionary people. the people that want to do photo shoots, the people that want to be on the school teams, the people that want to be on phase 2. Those are the people that want to accomplish stuff. The drag are the people that are just like, oh, we got a guest artist today? What does he even know? Right? I don't want to listen to that. Is it Friday yet? Right? I'm going to try and get out of here early on Saturday. They tell us I have an Instagram for hair, but that's stupid. Like, everybody already has one. That's the drag. That's the stuff that's going to keep you down. There's so many opportunities for you to create your own lift. We said it was $23,000 to go to school here, yeah? Something like that. What is remarkable to me is that within that payment, there are 3 types of individuals. There are the people that they paid their $23,000, they got their $23,000 of value, and people ask them how's school, they go, school's good, it's cool, I like it. They got what they paid for. There's also individuals that are like, oh, that place is so overpriced. Like, I can't believe that it even costs that much. Because they're drag, like they're not using anything that's here. And then there's people that really get the most of it, that do all of the activities, that get all of the education. And they leave here, and they know that it's going to be one of the best investments that they ever made. I went to school here too. I know how much it cost when I went, and it has made me tons of money in the 10 years that I've graduated that I wouldn't have been able to do had I not gone to school here. So it all comes down to what you get out of it. And I think surrounding yourself with lift people is a huge aspect of that. So to have the confidence to be able to pursue this, have you ever asked yourself this question? Where does confidence come from? What do you guys think? From what? Yourself? There's no wrong answer here, guys. So please feel confident to say something. But yes, I do believe that it comes from our internal dialogue first and foremost. A lot of people will say, as I was just saying, some of it is who you surround yourself with. It's your influences that are in your life. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it comes down to you. When you woke up this morning to when you go to bed tonight, you have this ongoing internal dialogue in your head. You're constantly talking to yourself. Some of you might be saying, no, not me, but you just proved my point. And so we are going to be telling ourselves something along the way. And so at this point in your career, I hope that when you started, you said, I could be an awesome hairstylist. I could kill it. Like, I know that I could be really, really good at that job or at that career. So then the next step was you knew you had to go and get knowledge. And so that's kind of where you're at right now, is you had the internal dialogue, but even with the strongest commitment of saying, like, I am awesome, I'm going to be able to do great things, if you don't actually know what you're doing, it doesn't turn out, right? So now you're getting education, you're getting your knowledge. The third one is being able to witness your results. And then that then benefits your internal dialogue again. I honestly believe that you guys witnessing your results right now is probably one of the biggest struggles that you're facing. Because your taste, like, you look at these images and you're like, that stuff's awesome, right? I see good hair, I know what makes good hair, but then you go to try and recreate it and you're just like, you feel like a T-Rex, like your arms don't work or something, right? Like, and then you get frustrated, yeah? Because your talent doesn't match your taste, and it's going to take time for those two things to sync up. And so I think that people get really, really frustrated very quickly, and they go, I'm not even good at this, right? This was a bad idea. I should have listened to everybody that told me not to go here, And so at that point, we've then changed our internal dialogue, and really, at that point, right, the answer would be go and get more education. Go and get more knowledge. Like, the guys and girls that created those images, like, they're master stylists. They have been doing it for years. Like, no wonder they can create that stuff. But we're, 10 months in and we're like, I'm not as good as Guy Tang. I'm not as good as Colin Caruso, right? And so instead of us continuing to get more knowledge, we drop that off. And then our results continue to get bad. And so then we let the whole thing go. And so this stuff feeds on itself. By the time you graduate, if you look back to a photo of the first haircut you took, even if it was on a doll head, you'll be able to see how much better you've gotten. But the problem is that we move through our talent and we grow our talent so small from day to day that sometimes, like, really, how much better are you today from yesterday? Probably not that much, right? 0.001%. But from the beginning of school to the end of school, there's going to be improvement, right? And then 1 year after graduation, you'll be that much better. And then 2 years after graduation, that much better. And so you got to be able to see the results. And whether you're documenting your stuff with photos and videos, or just looking for things like your clients coming back to you, getting Yelp reviews, those sort of like little things, you've got to be able to see the results and enjoy them. The other aspect of attitude is determination. Make it happen. I've got a clip here, one of my favorites from Rocky 34.
If you don't have to do it.
Yeah, well, I think I do.
You know, living with you, it hasn't been easy. People see me, but they think of you. Now with all this going on, this is gonna be worse than ever.
It don't have to be.
No, sure it does.
Why? You got a lot going on, kid.
Oh, what, my last name? That's the reason I got a decent job. That's the reason why people deal with me in the first place. Now I start to get a little ahead. I start to get a little something for myself, and this happens. Now I'm asking you as a favor not to go through with this, okay? This is only gonna end up bad for you, and it's gonna end up bad for me.
You think I'm hurting you?
Yeah, in a way you are.
That's the last thing I ever wanted to do.
I know that's not what you want to do, but that's just the way that it is. Don't you care what people think? Doesn't it bother you that people are making you out to be a joke and that I'm gonna be included in that? Do you think that's right? Do you?
You ain't gonna believe this. But you used to fit right here. I'd hold you up and say to your mother, this kid's gonna be the best kid in the world. This kid's gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew. And you grew up good and wonderful. It was great just watching you every day. It was like a privilege. Then the time come for you to be your own man and take on the world, and you did. But somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that. I'm always gonna love you no matter what. No matter what happens. You're my son, you're my blood. You're the best thing in my life. But until you start believing in yourself, you ain't gonna have a life. Don't forget to visit your mother.
All right. So, awesome piece there. I don't like big butts, and I cannot lie. All right? So, isn't it funny how everybody is always able to find the excuse, right? If you say, we've got an event on Sunday, oh, but I can't do that. I already worked 5 days this week. Or, but I don't have a good enough camera to do my own content creation. Or, but that's too far for me to drive to go and do, right? Like, everybody can always find the excuse, but the people that are really successful are the people that are determined to make it happen, that push through that, or they just find a way. And I think that's what I see in a lot of young people, is like, we want it, But sometimes when it comes down to like how hard you actually have to work for it, that's when a lot of people are like, yeah, but I want success on my terms. Like I don't want to have to do that. I just want to be able to do like the good part of it. And that's, you know, it's not how things work, right? Like we're in the service industry, yeah? So one of the big things is like we have to be willing to work when people want to be served. So for the salons, for our salons, we're open till 8 o'clock at night. Now that might be a little later than what you would like to work, right? Like it'd be cool to just go home at like 4:30, hit a happy hour on the way home, and just like have a good time. And all my friends, you know, they work office jobs, so they're done at 5. It'd be cool to like go to trivia night with them and like do fun stuff. But that's not what this industry is. You guys chose it, and that means that you have to be available when people are available to come and get the services. And so we can't look at the excuses. We can't find the buts. We have to work through it. Now, the next thing that we would need to have is passion, right? Do you guys feel like I'm kind of passionate about this stuff? Right? Good. Passion goes viral. I hope that my excitement for what I have is sort of like hitting you and like you're getting excited and you feel it. Because that passion then creates that excitement. And the same thing happens with our guests. When we're excited in the salon, our guests are excited. But if like the place is dead and you're just like, what kind of haircut did you want? Like your client is, well, your client's not going to be dead, but your client is certainly not going to be that excited to be in the salon with you. And if we're presenting ideas and we're sharing things with them, if we're just like, well, you could do bangs, I guess. Like who's going to want to get bangs then? Nobody. So my question to you is, in the various aspects that we have in the salon, what are you passionate about? What about the color bar? Who's passionate about the color bar? Awesome, right? So is there anything that prevents you from talking to every guest about color? No, right? It's just a conversation. And if you're passionate about it and you lead with that excitement, that's going to get the guest excited. Even if they're only in for a blowout or a haircut today, like we can plant the seed and talk to them about, like, have you ever done color before? Oh my gosh, if you did an awesome lavender, it would really bring out your eyes. What? Like me? I could do a lavender? I never thought that I could do that, right? Like that sort of idea is what gets people excited. And maybe they don't book it today, maybe they don't even book it next week, but at some point, they'll be like, you remember that lavender you said I could do? Could we do that, right? What about barbering, men's work? No, oh, one person, 2 people, cool. So in order to like build a career doing like men's work, what do you need to have? Huh? Scissors, combs, yeah. Knowledge, yeah. We have to have guys, right? And again, it's every guest that sits in our chair, we have an opportunity to engage in that conversation, okay? A woman comes in, this weekend, you know, oh, I'm so excited, it's our anniversary, I'm going out to dinner with my husband. Oh, your husband, that's great, blah, 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 how long have you been together? Do that, and then at some point you say, what is your husband's hair like? Oh, he has no idea how to style his hair, he's just wild with it, he gets like a $5 haircut. Oh, I really love men's haircutting. If he's ever looking to change it up, I would love to have him come and see me. I love the detail work and making guys look great. Oh, all right, I'll talk to him about it. Maybe I'll even get him a gift certificate. It's his anniversary, right? Like planting those seeds. Our excitement gets those people excited. I'm sure that we've all had the experience where we've seen a movie trailer and we're like, that movie looks awful. I do not want to see that movie. But then your friend goes and sees it and comes back and is like, it was rad, like it was so funny, there was this crazy fight scene or whatever. And then we go, all right, maybe I'll go check it out. That sounds pretty good. What about makeup? Are you guys excited about makeup? I see some Halloween makeup today. That was fun. I'm not a makeup person. I have no passion for makeup. So we do not have that in the salon. But I definitely understand why people are excited about it. You can do a huge transformation for people through makeup. What about take home? A few people. That's what always happens. It's like color bar, men's cutting, makeup. Take home. I don't really care.
I like it.
Yeah. So here's the thing with take home. As stylists, I'm not going to lie, you're probably not going to make a killer amount of money selling products. Most salons are probably somewhere around 10%, right? So if you sell what is like Marula? Like $25, something like that? 21? So whatever it is. In the salon, you might get like $2. Woo! Right? That's not the point. The point is that when your guest comes in today, and we do her hair and we make it look awesome, realistically, how long is your style going to last? 2 to 3 days maybe? So 48 to 72 hours. That is the time that you've given yourself to have your work look its best. So in those first couple of days, that is probably then going to be the time that she is going to get the most compliments, and that's really your window for referrals is only 3 days. However, if her hair looks awesome more often, right, if she has the right stuff in order to take care of it, you've given her the knowledge on how to do it and how to style it, now your work can look good for, let's say, 3 weeks, right? And then it's going to fall apart, or she's not going to do it some days. But we're going to lengthen that window to her hair looks good for 3 weeks now. And out of those 3 weeks, the chances of you getting a new request or somebody saying, oh, you know what, your hair always looks awesome. Where do you go? Oh, I just go see Ben at the hair loft. Now I'm building my service. And my service is really what I care about, isn't it? Yeah, right? So that's the benefit, is what you're doing. We always have this like disconnect in our mind of like service, take home. But they're really one thing, and they build each other. And what I see in the salon is people that have, I was talking about Kayla, people that have the highest service dollar have the highest take-home dollar as well, because they've been able to build it together, and that guest then has a higher level of trust. And if the guest has a higher level of trust, when you say, oh, let's do that lavender hair that we were talking about, they go, yes, let's do that, because every time we've done something new, I trust you, and it always comes out so good. Right? So it's all one thing. It's not like compartmentalized where the things don't affect each other. So we have to be excited about the tools that we use. You guys have seen this, this quote before? Choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. I hate this quote. It's such a sham. So we edit it. All right? Choose a job you love and you'll want to work every day of your life. Now, I'm not saying you're going to work every day of your life, but the concept of like work-life balance to me is just sort of weird, right? Balance is created between two opposing forces. So in that theory, then anytime we were going to work, we weren't enjoying life. And any time for me to enjoy life would mean that I certainly am not going to work. Like, yeah, if you enjoy what you're doing, like, you're going to want to do it. You with me? In order to be successful in this industry, it takes a lot of hard work. There's an oversaturation of people. There's an oversaturation of salons and options for people to go to already. And you guys are coming into it fresh. So it's going to take a lot of hard work for you to be successful. Like, you don't get to just hold up a Paul Mitchell diploma and be like, hire me, I'm the best. Everybody else, stop going and getting your hair cut at those other places. I'm here now, the industry is saved. Right? Like, that's not how it works. You're going to have to be willing to put in that determination, that hustle, and that grind. But you can enjoy it while you're doing it. So just to give you guys like a bit of a perspective on like what my regular day is. I wake up about 4:45, which is weird, right? 4:45, take care of my dog first and foremost, go to the gym from like 6 to 8, come home, take care of the dog, eat breakfast. Then from like 9 to 11, I work on stuff for the salon at home, content, education, whatever it is that we're doing. I go to one of our salon locations then from like 11:30 to 2. About 2 o'clock, grab lunch, go over to our other location. I'm there from like 2:30 to 5. Go home, take care of Penny again. She's my favorite. Have dinner, and then I work on form and function stuff in the evening. So we got like a podcast, video series, whatever it is I'm doing there. But like essentially, I've got stuff planned work-wise from like 9 to 6, 6:30, 7 o'clock. Now, that's a lot of stuff, right? And if I was in this whole like work-life balance, I can't, like, then I'd be like, oh, everything sucks, right? Like, I'm working so much. But if you love it, you can work through that hustle. Next aspect, successful lifestyle. It's kind of a cliche. There is no I in team. One of my favorite buildings in the city is the Sears Tower. I will not call it the Willis Tower. It's the Sears Tower, always. So the Sears Tower it was the tallest building in the world until 1998, 110 stories tall. It's got a tubular design, which is interesting. So it's 9 individual towers. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to the design, but you tried to highlight it there. So each one is like self-contained, but they're all tied together, and they sort of break off at different points in the structure. What's really interesting, though, is of those 9 towers, some of them would be the tallest in the city on their own, but they can't stand without the other 8. They're too tall and skinny to be like structurally sound. They need the other ones in order to be what it is, right? Or else they would just topple over. Again, like using the city as an analogy and taking inspiration from it, this is where I see a lot of things going in our industry right now. Is like you see people going independent. I want to be freelance, and that's totally cool, right? Like it works for some. I think it's really hard for a lot of people, and there's a lot of misconceptions about like, you know, the income that you make and like how easy it's going to be. The reality is, Sears Tower is the Sears Tower because all 8 towers are there together. In the Salon, our success is built on us working together. Yes, we've got stylists that are, you know, that's where everybody wants to be, and everybody wants to be crushing it and be a top stylist. But you also need reservations, right? We need people to handle those phone calls, book those appointments. We need to have proteges in the salon so that, you know, in order for me to maximize my schedule, I might need somebody to throw on a toner for me or do a blowout or, you know, like just be there. And it just becomes so much harder to have that top level of success if you're trying to do everything all on your own. And so in the salon or in the school, right, it all comes down to us being willing to help support each other because we have the same common goal of building that guest experience and making sure that our salon or our school is the best that it can be. So going back to this cliched statement, there is no I in team other than the a-hole. See what happened there? When this starts to happen is when ego starts to take over, right? When people start to look at the salon and the group and they go, I really am like the best one here, right? Like these guys are they should be so thankful that I work here, right? That's when you can start to realize like you're not really part of the team, you're the a-hole part of the team, right? And it happens. I don't know why it happens. Like all we're doing is doing rad hair and trying to make cool things, you know, work. But for some reason, I think in creative industries in general, not just ours, there is an opportunity for ego to come in. Be like, I am so creative. My talent is pushing the walls out on this room. Like that's how good I am. But if you ever feel like you're that much better than everybody, you probably aren't, and you're just turning into this, right? So keep that in mind. So let's shift gears a little bit. Instead of culture, we're going to talk numbers. So some of those people that said, like, you can't have a career in this, like there's no money in hair, right? People said that. What was your response to it?
Depends on how hard you work.
Depends on how hard you work. Now, I'm going to guess that most of you probably have not like written out a business plan. You're just like, I'm going to do rad hair. I'm going to hustle, and like that's how I'm going to be successful, right? But knowing our numbers is really important because numbers exist whether you know them or not, right? So it's really just knowing our statistics and then being able to use that to influence our behavior. You know, if you were shown a report that was like, you know, you're late 34% of the time, you'd be like, oh, I didn't, you know, maybe you didn't realize that. And so then knowing it, you'd be like, all right, I'm going to step up coming on time. Just an example. So in this industry, do you guys know what the average income for a stylist is in America? On average, $25,000. So are you guys cool with that? No, right? Like that's not really, now again, maybe in Chicago, maybe it's a little higher or whatever, but like nationally, that's kind of what the average is. And I would imagine that living in Chicago in 25 would be really difficult, right? Like that's not like the cool lifestyle that we want to live. Now, if we set ourselves a goal of being 6 figures, right? I think that that's a great goal, but it's also, again, like really difficult, obviously, right? Because we said if the average is 25 and our goal is to be 100, well, then we're going to have to at least work and be 4 times smarter than everybody else. So is everybody cool with that as a goal? I mean, you could go higher, but we can work with 100?
Yeah.
All right, so here's your business plan, and here's what you can take back to all those people that said, like, you'll never be able to have a career like that, okay? There's 3 things that we need to know, all right? So the 3 things that you're going to need to hit or know is your number of guests, the frequency in which they come in, and the dollars that they spend when they come and see you. And we're going to focus dollars spent on just on service, okay? So how many clients do you think you would need in order to have that $100,000 career? Like these are people that are your regulars, not just like in the course of a year, but 250 would be right. So you're going to need somewhere between 250 to like 300, okay? But what does Chicago have? Like 3 million people in Chicago? So that's awesome because we have opportunity there. I've gone and I've been fortunate enough to be able to like educate and coach with salons that are in areas where there's like 1,200 people. And with 1,200 people, there's 4 salons. And those 4 salons all have 5 people. And it's like, so you guys can each have 15 clients, and best of luck to you. All right? So frequency. For those 250 people to come in, we need them to average 5-week visits. Okay? So you might have somebody who, you know, some of our balayage clients, right? They're like 10, 12 weeks. But some of our guys, they're probably like every 3 weeks. Sometimes gray coverage every 4 to 5 weeks. So somewhere in there, we want to find a frequency average of about 5 weeks, which would mean that in a 52-week year, we're going to see them about 10 times. And lastly, how much do you think that those clients need to spend on their services when they come in? $100? 200? It's actually only 80 bucks. Yeah. So, and I'll be honest, I don't really care how you guys get there. You could be a $40 haircut, $40 color, you're at 80. You could be at 120 highlight, and then your next guest, 120, again, would probably be like a $40 blow dry. You're there. You just need to get them to spend, on average, $80 in the salon, which, again, just like super reasonable. So if I take this math and I do 250 times 10 times 80, that actually gives me $200,000 in service. And most salons that are commission are around 50%, and so you end up at $100,000, right? So it's 250 guests coming in 10 times a year, spending $80, breaks out to $200,000. Pretty cool, right? So the hardest part of that little business plan is the frequency of visit. So to give you a little history, we all love history. I'm going to use clouds. So way back in the day, in sort of what people probably refer to as like the golden age of salons, right? People came in and got their little wash and style, their roller sets, like all the stuff that we don't want to be doing, but the guest was coming in every week, right? So we had like 50 plus visits a year because those clients just came in, they got their hair set, they went home, they came back a few days later the next week and did it again. It was fantastic from a traffic perspective because people were in the salon all the time. Salons were a bigger part of lifestyle at that point. And then Vidal Sassoon changed haircutting. No longer were little wash and sets cool. Awesome, geometric, wash and wear hair became what was in. And as cool as that hair was, it also changed things. Like the guests didn't need to be coming back weekly. The whole point was to detach them from the salon so that they could go out and live their life. And so our frequency went from 50 visits a year to coming back every 5 weeks, which dropped us down to 10. And some of you might be thinking, well, didn't you say that that was good? That would be good, because today, people on average come to their salon 4 times a year. If a guest doesn't pre-book with you, they come back every 13 weeks. And so that's where we're at today. So if we take those numbers and we plug them in and say, you know what, you're doing awesome. You've got those 250 people, but they're only coming back to see you 4 times a year. They're doing the right services. They're spending their $80. How much of a difference could it really be? You're actually down. You're down to $80,000 for the year, which then after commission, you're down to like 40. So think about that. Like, you attracted the right amount of people. You've got them doing the right services, but you don't have them coming back as frequently because maybe we don't want to be pushy. We don't want to make the recommendation of like, I really need to see you back in 6 weeks, or whatever the case may be. And so we, instead of having $100,000 clientele potential that's sitting there, we're only taking home $40,000. Yikes. So some people, they say, well, if my clients like me, they'll come back when they want to see me. You know, if they love their hair, they'll come back. I don't need to tell them when they should be in the salon. They'll figure it out. I still want to make $100,000 though. And so that means that instead of 250 clients, you need to now have a clientele of 625 people. That's a crazy amount of people. Because it's not just clients, that is like 625 relationships. You know, because the stuff that like really connects you to your clientele isn't just the hair that you're doing, it's the relationship that you have with them. You know, so that's 625, how was your vacation? 625, oh, you were doing your kid's recital last week, right? Like, that's a lot to try and keep in your mind. So, if you boil all this down, I would say trying to get your guests to come back to the salon reasonably every 5 to 6 weeks gives you a total of 8 to 10 visits a year with each person. So, there you go. There's your business plan.